Today I'm going to be scoring one touchdown with every quarterback on Madden 24, and we're starting with the Baltimore Ravens. So obviously we're starting off with Lamar here. I'm going to try and get Mark Andrews open, and hopefully this can be a first. I mean, he's pretty reliable. He does not drop a whole lot. As you can see, that's a crazy grab. But after that, I'm probably going to go for OBJ. At some point during this drive, actually, I'm just going to do it now. Never mind. OBJ's too open to ignore, but I'm definitely going to have to take Lamar for a run soon. I actually can't wait for the season to start, man. I mean, I feel like OBJ and Lamar are going to be such a crazy duo, but only time will tell. That accuracy was terrible, but we're going to get the first. I feel like the only right way to end this drive off is if we hit Lamar in the end zone. So I'm just going to go for a run, and hopefully we don't get stopped. That is looking good. I see open field, so that is going to be your touchdown with Lamar Jackson. But that brings us to the New Orleans Saints, and obviously they have a new face at quarterback this year in Derek Carr, so they're going to be interesting to watch. I feel like Carr is either going to go off. What a grab. I don't know how we're still up. That's going to be a touchdown. But as I was saying, I feel like Carr is either going to go off or he's going to play way below expectations. So it can go either way, but there's your touchdown for the Saints. But that's going to bring us down to Seattle, and they're rocking with Geno Smith this year. I feel like he's definitely proved himself, because when Wilson left, everyone was counting the Seahawks out. But then Geno Smith went off and carried them to the playoffs. And to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be any different this year. I mean, I don't think the Rams are terrible, but I don't think they're a playoff team anymore. And obviously the Cardinals are not a playoff team. So I'd say the Seahawks and the Niners both make the playoffs this year. I mean, as long as Geno stays healthy and they keep Metcalf and Lockett healthy, I'd say there's no question about it. Oh, we're going on a run. That is a lot of open field. Hold on. We're going to get 1 yard short. I thought we got in there, but I mean 1 yard to go, so I can just QB sneak this, and this should be an easy touchdown. I mean, this play never fails. And once again, it's not going to fail. So there's your touchdown from Geno Smith. But that brings us to the Steelers. They're rocking with Kenny Pickett this year, who's supposed to be the future of the team. And I feel like he's going to play better this year because obviously he has something to prove. That's a nice pickup. With that being said, though, I know a lot of you Steelers fans are going to hate me for saying this, but I don't think that they're going to be a playoff team this year just because they have a really tough division. I mean, they're going to have to worry about the Bengals, the Ravens, and honestly, now the Browns are actually looking like a pretty solid team. So I'd say they have to worry about the Browns as well, but one more play as long as it works, and we should be in the end zone. Hopefully George Pickens can get open here, because I mean, if he doesn't, this play is going to get blown up. That's going to be a touchdown, though. I'm not going to lie. I thought that was going to get intercepted. I threw that a bit late, but it's going to work out. So there's your touchdown for the Steelers. But that brings us down to Houston, and we're going to be using a new face of the franchise, which is CJ Stroud. Honestly, he doesn't have a whole lot of weapons to work with this year, but I do think they're at least going to get like 5 or 6 wins this season. But until they get CJ Stroud some weapons to work with, I would not say that they're going to be a playoff team. But stranger things have happened. He could go off, but that's going to be a big pickup. Let's go. I mean, their best weapon is Woods, who's a 77 overall, which obviously is not that good. I mean, they do have Pierce at running back, who's pretty underrated, but at the same time, I'd give him 3 seasons and they'd probably be a playoff team again. But we're gonna get a touchdown in the corner, so that's your touchdown from CJ Stroud. But that brings us to the Titans. Their quarterback is obviously Ryan Tannehill, who isn't terrible, but I mean, he's not the best quarterback in the league, but at the same time, he has a lot of weapons to work with. As you can see, Derrick Henry's going to get a massive pickup. But obviously, Derrick Henry is not the only weapon that this team has now, because they picked up DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. So this team could either be super crazy or super mid, but there's your touchdown from Hopkins. Today's video is brought to you by Z2U.com, and they are currently having a hot sale on Madden coins. Make sure you check them out before the sale ends. You definitely don't want to miss out on this deal. But that brings us to the Vikings, and their quarterback is Kirk Cousins, who's no Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, but he's a pretty solid QB. He's obviously good enough to get the job done, especially when he has the best wide receiver in the league. I mean, I'd say this team definitely makes the playoffs this year. I don't know how you miss the playoffs when you have a guy like Justin Jefferson on the team, but better yet, they also drafted Jordan Addison, so I feel like that duo is going to be scary. I mean, if you ask me, I'd say this duo is going to be just as scary as Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Maybe better. We'll see how they play out when the season starts. One more play and we should be in now. So I'm just going to run spacings here, and as long as Osborne can get open, which he will, that's going to be your touchdown for the Minnesota Vikings. But that brings us to the Bears, who are rocking with Justin Fields at quarterback. And I mean, he obviously has something to prove this year. He played pretty well last year, but his team was terrible. I mean, I'd say if they get lucky, they make the playoffs this year, but that's still a stretch, even though they made all these improvements. But I mean, I feel like him and DJ Moore are going to be a pretty good duo. I'm going to switch it up though and go for Claypool this time. He's nowhere near as good as DJ Moore is, but he's still solid, and he's going to be the one that gets us the touchdown. So that's your touchdown for Justin Fields. But that's going to bring us to one of, if not the scariest team in the AFC, the Cincinnati Bengals, who are rocking with Joe Burrow at quarterback, who is obviously one of the best QBs in the league, no questions asked. I mean, the season hasn't even started yet, but we already know the Bengals are going to make the playoffs again. I mean, I feel like the division is going to be between them and the Ravens, who are also going to be solid now that they have OBJ. But anyways, I feel like the Bengals probably have the best wide receiver core in the league. I mean, they have T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, who is wide open for a first down and a touchdown. But that brings us to another team who is going to be absolutely terrifying this year, the Buffalo Bills, who are obviously rocking with Josh Allen, who is an absolute dog. And again, I mean, there's no way that the Bills missed the playoffs this year. When you have Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs as a duo on the same team, I'm pretty sure it's literally impossible for you to miss the playoffs. But as long as this play works, we should be in the end zone with Stephon Diggs, and that is perfect accuracy for the touchdown. So there's your tutty for Josh Allen. That brings us down to Denver, and they were arguably one of the most disappointing teams to watch last year, but obviously their quarterback is Russell Wilson. This might be a one-play touchdown we're gonna get caught. They do have Peyton as a coach this year, so I'd say this team either makes massive improvements or they're gonna force Russell Wilson into retirement if they miss the playoffs again. But anyways, that's gonna be a touchdown from Jerry Jeudy. That brings us to the Browns, and they're obviously rocking with Deshaun Watson now. But as a Ravens fan, it pains me to say this, but I think this team is gonna surprise a lot of people this year. That's a big pickup. Let's go Chubb. I mean, Deshaun Watson did not really get a chance last season, but now that he has a full year to play with the team, unless he gets injured, I think they actually might sneak into the playoffs. That's a big pickup. Okay, that play worked amazing last time, so I'm just gonna try and hit Amari Cooper again, and hopefully we can have the same outcome. I mean, he's looking open, and that is gonna be another first down. So 2 yards to go, and we're in the end zone. I totally forgot this team has Peoples-Jones. That's who I'm gonna hit right here. And it's going to be a touchdown. So there you go. That is your touchdown for Deshaun Watson. But that brings us down to Tampa, and they also have a new face at quarterback now that Brady has retired, which is Baker Mayfield. And I mean, a lot of you might not like to hear this, but he has been overhyped. That's going to be a touchdown, by the way. But a lot of people think Mayfield is going to go off this season. I cannot see that happening. I mean, I'd say the Bucs get like 5 to 6 wins max. But that brings us down to Arizona. They're obviously rocking with Kyler Murray again this season, who's a really solid quarterback, but I mean, the problem is the rest of his team is pretty terrible. This might be a touchdown. Hold on, we're gonna get caught at the 21. But as I said in the last video, they have Kyler Murray, who's pretty good, and they also have Hollywood Brown, who's pretty good, but other than that, the team is terrible. So at the end of the year, I think we're gonna be handing them the crown for the worst team in the league. But there's your touchdown for the Cardinals. That brings us to the Chargers. They're rocking with Justin Herbert again, who is a really solid quarterback, and I think he's gonna go off this year. Obviously, he brought them to the playoffs last year. I wouldn't say they're going to win a Super Bowl or anything yet, but I mean, the way this team played last year and the way they've improved in the offseason, I'd say they at least make it to the playoffs and they at least get 1 or 2 wins. But again, I don't think they're going to go all the way to the Super Bowl. But I mean, then again, if that did happen, I wouldn't be super surprised, because this team might be one of those teams who are just slept on this year. But anyways, that's going to be a touchdown for Williams. We almost got stopped at the 1-yard line, but it's gonna work out for us. But that brings us to the Chiefs, and they have probably the best quarterback in the league. Even though a lot of you like to hate on him, I think he's proved it at this point, who is obviously Patrick Mahomes, and we're gonna find Travis Kelce for a 1-play touchdown. So we're not gonna be in Kansas City too long. But I mean, obviously this team is 100% making the playoffs this year, just like they always do. But that brings us to the Colts, and their quarterback is also a new one with Anthony Richardson. And I mean, they have a very solid offense, and their defense isn't terrible either. If Richardson progresses properly this year, I'd say they might be able to sneak into the playoffs. But at the same time, that might be a bit of a long shot now that Trevor Lawrence is going off with the Jags, who are predicted to win the division this year. And I'm not going to argue with that because that's exactly what I think is going to happen to Hurdle. Let's go. Anthony Richardson's only a 70 overall right now too, which will probably go up as the season goes on. But again, he's going to have to prove himself, but he has some legs on him, as you can see, just like Lamar. So we're going to get a rushing touchdown with Richardson. But that brings us to the Commanders, who have Howell at quarterback this season. And I mean, their division went from being the worst division in the league to being the best division in the league just 1 year after that. And I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think that's going to change. I mean, Howell does have a lot of weapons to work with, and the Commanders have a really solid defense as well. So I think they're going to do good, but at the same time, I don't think they're going to be able to handle how good their division's going to be. So I mean, I don't think that I'd call them a playoff team this year, but at the same time, I mean, it's between them and the Giants of who's going to make it. It's one of those teams is going to make it, I'm telling you right now. I'd say it's going to be the exact same situation as last year. The Cowboys definitely make it, the Eagles definitely make it, and it's either going to be one of those teams, the Giants or the Commanders. It's whoever plays better. But anyways, that is going to be your touchdown from Sam Howell. But that brings us down to Dallas. Their quarterback is Dak Prescott, who is also the king of throwing interceptions. So this team, again, I said they're going to make the playoffs this year. I guarantee they will. To be fair, though, this team is really solid. I'm not going to lie. Even though Dak loves to throw interceptions, they made some good moves in the offseason. I feel like getting rid of Elliott and moving Pollard to the #1 running back, it was definitely the right move. And I mean, obviously, they also picked up Gilmore for the defense, so they are going to be a pretty tough team to play against this year. Even though I hate Dak Prescott, I got to give them credit. They are definitely going to make the playoffs. But there's your touchdown for the Cowboys. But now we're rocking with the Dolphins. Their quarterback is Tua Tagovailoa, and I can guarantee you that we are going to get a touchdown in the first two plays. I mean, we have Tyreek Hill to work with, and that's going to be a one-play touchdown. What did I tell you? Literally called it. When you have Tyreek Hill, I mean, it is so easy to get touchdowns with this guy, as you can see. But anyways, now we're down in Philadelphia. Their quarterback is obviously Jalen Hurts, who has definitely proved himself. But as you can see, we're rocking these new jerseys, and I just want to say that these might be the toughest jerseys in the league right now. But anyways, obviously the Eagles are stacked, just like always. They got Jalen Carter on the defense now, which is absolutely terrifying. So I'd say this team once again wins the division this year. And I mean, if they go off like they did last year, they might win the whole entire NFC. This team is absolutely terrifying, and I don't think they're going to be slowing down. They lost the Super Bowl last year, and I think they're going to be coming for revenge this year. I'd say they probably make it to the Super Bowl. That brings us to the Falcons, and their quarterback is Desmond Ridder this season, who I think is going to be quite the improvement from Marcus Mariota. But at the same time, I wouldn't say the Falcons are in a position to make the playoffs yet, but I do think they'll improve from last year. I mean, as I said a couple videos ago, I'd say give them like 3 to 4 seasons and they'll definitely be a playoff team again, because they've been drafting pretty well lately. But that is looking like a touchdown if Pitts can get going, and we're not going to get caught. So we're going to find Pitts in the end zone for the touchdown. But that brings us down to the Niners, and they named Brock Purdy the starting quarterback for this year, which I think is a good move. For some reason, a lot of people are thinking last season was a fluke, but I mean, I think Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy is definitely going to prove himself this year. I think a lot of people are going to realize that he is going to be one of the best quarterbacks of the future when they make the playoffs again this year. I mean, this guy literally has all of the weapons he could possibly ask for. You got Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk. I mean, I don't know how you fail with a team like that, but Brock Purdy is definitely a solid QB. But now that he's been named the starting quarterback, I'm kind of curious to see what Trey Lance is going to do. I have a feeling that after this year, he's probably going to request a trade or something like that. But there's your touchdown for the Niners. That brings us to the Giants, who are rocking with Daniel Jones at quarterback again. He did push them to the playoffs last year. That might be a touchdown. That is a massive play. Let's go. But I mean, they gave him a massive contract, and honestly, I think it's a bit too early for that. But if he keeps playing the way he did last year, it's probably going to be worth it. But that brings us to the Jags. Their quarterback is Trevor Lawrence, who I would say 100% proved himself to the league last year. They're picked to win the division, and I'm not going to argue with that. I think that is 100% going to happen this year. I think this team is going to surprise a lot of people. They were just a couple games away from making it to the Super Bowl, and they put up one hell of a fight against the Chiefs, as we seen. I mean, the AFC is a very tough conference, so I don't want to go out and say that they're going to make it to the Super Bowl, but I do think this team is going to surprise a lot of people this year. But anyways, as long as Jones can get open off of this play, or even ETN, we should be able to be in the end zone, and it's looking like Jones is wide open, and that is going to be your touchdown for Trevor Lawrence. But that brings us to the Jets, who also have a new face at quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, and I'd say now that they have Rodgers, plus all the improvements that they made in the offseason, I think this team is finally going to make the playoffs. I'd say the wait is definitely over, but that's going to be a one-play touchdown from Garrett Wilson. So there's your touchdown from the Jets. Again, just like last video, make sure you comment down below what you think the best touchdown of the day was. That brings us to the Detroit Lions, and their quarterback is Jared Goff, who isn't insane, but he's pretty good. I'd say the Lions definitely make it to the playoffs this year. They got really close last year, and I mean, now that they don't have to worry about Aaron Rodgers anymore, I'd say the division is up for grabs between them, the Vikings, and maybe the Bears, but I give the Bears a couple more seasons to progress. That is an absolute dot, and that is going to be a touchdown. So there is your touchdown for the Lions. But that brings us to the Carolina Panthers, who also have a new face at quarterback in Bryce Young, who might be the best pickup of the draft. I think he's probably going to be the next Jalen Hurts. I mean, give them a couple seasons and they'll probably be a Super Bowl team. But obviously they won the offseason. I mean, this team is a completely new team. They gave up a lot of players, and they made a lot of improvements that they desperately needed. Adam Thielen, let's go. We almost snuck in. I mean, this is definitely going to be an interesting team to watch over the next few years. But anyways, Hayden Hurst is open, which is going to give us the touchdown for Bryce Young. But that brings us to the Patriots. Their quarterback is Mac Jones, who really isn't anything special yet. But I mean, I think he might do a bit better this season now that they added Juju Smith-Schuster, who is obviously a very solid weapon. But I mean, at the same time, I'd say the Pats probably finished last place in their division. I mean, that division is absolutely stacked, especially now that they have Aaron Rodgers. I mean, they got to worry about the Jets, the Bills, and the Dolphins, so I'd say they stand no chance compared to those teams. But I mean, give them a couple years and they'll probably be a playoff team again. But that's going to be a touchdown from Juju in the corner, so there's your touchdown for the Patriots. That brings us to the Raiders, and they got Garoppolo at quarterback now, and honestly, compared to Carr, I would say that is a bit of a downgrade. That juke did not work. I mean, they do have Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs is really solid as well now, so I'd say they probably end up with like maybe 8 or 9 wins this season, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. If you're a Raiders fan, you're not going to like to hear this, but I think it's going to be a while before these guys get themselves back in the playoffs. I mean, they have Devontae Adams, but I don't think they're going to be able to make it to the playoffs until they draft a new quarterback. And I mean, in the time that's going to take for them to draft a solid QB, I think Adams is going to be long gone, so I'd say it's probably going to be like 5 or 6 years. But there's your touchdown for the Raiders. And last but not least, we're down in LA using Matthew Stafford, who's a pretty solid QB. He won them a Super Bowl just a few seasons ago, and then they did terrible last year. But I mean, if they stay healthy, they have a chance at making it to the playoffs. That is crazy. I don't know how we got open there, but that's going to be a one-play touchdown from Cooper Kupp. But anyways, that's going to do it for this one. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It'd really help out the channel. And if you have any video ideas, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. I'll try to get to as many of them as I can. And while you're down there, you might as well comment the most random thing you can think of so we can confuse everybody in the comment section. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.